Welcome to Sports Talk with R and J. I am Steve Risser, along here with Justin D'Onofrio. We got a loaded show today. We got the NBA draft tonight. We got NBA free agency. We obviously got college football. We got a couple big matchups in the Big Ten. We got Major League Baseball. We got a couple executive. We got one executive stepping down. We got history made with another team. But we got to start in the NFL, and we got to start with the big matchup on Thursday night with the Cardinals and the Seahawks. A rematch of a game a couple of weeks ago that went to overtime that ended up giving Seattle their first loss, and now they have 3 losses. So they've really been struggling. The Cardinals, obviously, last week won on that miracle play from they had that huge Hail Mary, Kyler Murray to DeAndre Hopkins, the play of the year. So this game is really, really going to be a really good game between these two teams. I mean, they're two division rivals. Can't expect anything less than this being a one-score game either way. I think these offenses are going to go back and forth up and down the field. I think Russell Wilson's going to bounce back from his game last week, have a huge game against the Cardinals defense, him and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I think Wilson throws for a couple touchdown passes. And I think that Kyler Murray has another huge game, too, against the Seattle defense. I think Kenyon Drake runs the ball a little bit, but I think Murray gets the ball to Christian Kirk, DeAndre Hopkins, Larry Fitzgerald. I think it's a huge game for him, too. I think this game is back and forth. It's a shootout. But at the end of the day, I got to go with the home team, and I got the Seahawks getting revenge over the Cardinals. I got them winning 34-30 Thursday night.
Yeah, it should be a fun one. I do have Seattle as well, again, in the revenge game, 30-27. Seattle should have won that first meeting. They just couldn't pull out a couple turnovers. Kind of put the Cardinals up, or got the Cardinals in position there for the game-winning field goal the first time around. Definitely Arizona's coming off the emotional win from Seattle or against the Bills. Seattle's really struggling right now. I think the thing, Russell, it seems like he's just pressing right now, and he's, I know it was how bad the defense has been, even though they weren't bad Sunday. That was the least amount of points they've given up all year. But I think Russell Wilson plays better this week, and then they got to get off the field on third down as well. Team can convert for him over 40% of the time. They can get off the field, kind of slow down Kyler Murray in that offense. They should be able to get the win. I don't think they're supposed to have any fans in Seattle, but I don't see them losing this game. I think this is such a crucial game for the Seahawks. And I feel like they pull this one out.
Yeah, I mean, it should be an outstanding game. Yeah, they won't have fans, and I don't think it would really matter because I think these two teams are so good that I don't think the home field would matter for Seattle, but I don't think it would make that big of a difference because I think the Cardinals are a really good team, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Yeah, defensively they lost Chandler Jones, so they're not great there, but on the offensive side of the ball, the Cardinals are a really good team.
Yeah, they definitely are with all the weapons they have, and with Hopkins and Christian Kirk, Andy Isabella, Drake. Yeah, this is such a young, talented offensive roster. We're gonna see for the next few years here. Cliff Kingsbury's done a great job of putting these guys in their position, and players have been executing. This is such a fun offense to watch, and this would be such a fun game to watch offensively.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But before we get to some of the games on Sunday, we're going to talk about the Giants. And yes, they're on a bye week this week, but they still had news. And there was some news from one of their former players, and that's DeAndre Baker, as he was all the charges against him for armed robbery were dropped against him. And right now, he's about to sign with the Kansas City's practice squad. Obviously, this week there were some Giants that wanted him back, seeing that our corner depth, we are thin at corner, even though James Bradbury's had a great year. We are thin at corner. I mean, Darnay Holmes has played better recently. He's done a good job. But Isaac Yiadom has really, really struggled at the number 2 corner spot. So some Giant fans wanted him back. I think the Giants felt like, you know what, the ship has sailed. We've moved on. We decided to move on. We're not going to end up bringing him back. And now he's going to Kansas City. And I think he can help Kansas City. I don't know if he's going to be able to pick up the scheme quick enough. Because remember last year where he had a lot of trouble picking. He's a very talented player. Giants traded up in the first round to get him last year. But he had trouble picking up the defensive scheme last year. So I think he's going to have a little bit of a hard time doing that in Kansas City. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs sign him if he definitely sees time on the field.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me either. Former first rounder. And I think for the Giants, it's tough to re-sign a guy after you kind of, and for the reason they had to cut him. You had to, because you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you don't cut him, you get a lot of people critics on you about that. So the Giants made the right move to cut him. It's probably the smart thing not to pick him up. They definitely could have used him. But yeah, I think he definitely help out KC. Their defense is better. Yeah, it'll definitely take him a few weeks to get on the field here, to get back in shape and all that, and this year quarantine and all that. But I definitely think he could make it. He's a first round pick. He played at Georgia. There's some potential there. He had the off field troubles at Georgia as well. So, he stays, continues to work on the field and all that. So he's kind of out of the trouble. I definitely think he could help Kansas City out, depending how long the contract he signs, definitely in the future. I think he could be a nice piece of this defense who has been better the last few years, but still needs some work if they want to. But they definitely need some work.
Absolutely, and he could help their cornerback depth. It might even help them this year, but definitely next year, if it's depending on what contract he signs. But we'll get to more Giants news, and it's with their kicker Graham Gano, and unfortunately, he came down with COVID-19, and he's been isolated, and two other Giants close staffers in close contact have been isolated. Luckily for the Giants, they have a bye week this week, so they may be able to get him back after the bye against the Bengals. But still, we hope Graham Gano is doing well. He's had a really good year. He's really only missed one field goal. And I think it was that long field goal against the Bears in week 2. So he's had a really, really good year for this team. So we hope he's doing well, and we hope he gets better, and we hope he gets back and continues to kick the ball well for the Giants.
Yeah, definitely. He's been a great addition to the team this year. Yeah, he just missed that one field goal. But yeah, definitely. Hopefully he gets better soon. Hopefully he's doing well right now. But yeah, definitely, he's such a big piece of he's been such a good help this year for the Giants' special teams.
Absolutely.
Because we've seen around the special teams in some areas where teams have really struggled this year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you saw the Titans on Thursday night. Their special teams was a disaster. And we all knew I knew going into the season the special teams was definitely going to be a strength of the Giants. Having Joe Judge, because we know what Joe Judge was with the Patriots. He was the special teams coach. So the Giants might have the best special teams in the league, and Gano is a big reason for that.
Yeah, definitely. They've been really good in that area. Joe Judge big specialties, and definitely in that area. So yeah, I can definitely see that. Giants have been right up there, one of the best special teams in the league.
Now, we got one more piece of Giants news. I don't know if Joe got this because it happened right before the show. The Giants fired their offense. I don't know if you heard this, Justin. The Giants fired their offensive line coach, Mark Colombo, and they're bringing in one of their old coaches. Their O-line coach that they had when they won the Super Bowl. I think I still cannot. Oh, Joe said it. Joe said that's a false report he heard, because I heard from Bleacher Report that they were going to fire and bring in Doug Grimio as the O-line coach, but Joe just told us that that's a false report. So
I didn't hear that either.
Yeah, I actually saw it because I have Bleacher Report, and the Giants are one of my teams, so I saw that come up. But if Joe just wants to come on and just tell us that he heard it was false.
Yeah, it's funny, guys. Just before showtime, I was looking up the info. I had also seen the Bleacher Report, and I was going to add it into the show, into the graphics. And when I went to research it, I came across another person who reported that was a nonsensical story that was floating around, that there was no fight between Mark Colombo and Joe Judge, and none of that happened, and no one's really quite sure where it came from.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Joe. Thanks for correcting us, Joe.
I'll continue to monitor it, and if anything changes, I certainly will let you know.
Thank you very much, Joe. Thank you. So we're going to move on to the games this week, and we're going to start with your Patriots, who got a big win last week over the Ravens as they play the Texans this week. And this game, it definitely is a game that the Patriots should win, and a game that they match up well with. They do match up with the Texans because the Patriots are able to run the football really well. That's by far the biggest strength of the Patriots offense this year. You saw it Sunday night against the Ravens, the way they're able to run the ball behind their offensive line. Joe Tooney, Shaq Mason, David Andrews, Isaiah Wynn, and the rookie they got who's at right tackle who's had a really good year too. And they got Damian Harris, who's played really well as well. So I think they're not gonna have a problem running the ball against the Texans' run defenses, which is one of the worst in football. The only issue, though, is they're not going to be able to pull away from the Texans. And I think Deshaun Watson is going to make plays in this game. I think he's going to keep the Texans in this game. But I think this game comes down to the end with the Patriots defense making a play against Deshaun Watson. And I got the Patriots winning this game. I got them winning it 24-20 over the Texans.
Yeah, I got my Pats going on the road, picking up the win 27-23. This was a fun one last year in Sunday Night Football, and the Pats dominated most areas of the game. One turnover kind of hurt. They kind of couldn't convert. They couple field goals. Texans were able to score some touchdowns instead. It was kind of the difference. But, yeah, that was a great win Sunday night. That was wild with all the rain going down. But it was a lot of the young guys that stepped up. You know, Trez Hall that they picked up, playing for Bentley. Juwan Bentley, who's been awful at linebacker. Hall's given a nice boost at that position. Jacoby Myers, has snuck through the cracks here.
Yeah, he's played better. He should have had another touchdown. Cam missed him in the end zone there.
Yeah, he did. He did. And Damian Harris, you mentioned him. He's been great at running back. He's been fun to watch. And then the O-line too. They've been really blocking well. So right now, it seems like they may have finally found a turnover. The last 2 games, they haven't turned the ball over. So it seems like maybe they've turned a corner here a bit, a little bit better, but they've been playing better. This is going to be tough to slow down Deshaun Watson's offense. I don't think they'll be able to shut him down, but if they can keep the ball out of his hands and keep that defense, because that defense is really bad at stopping the run, I think they definitely can go down there and get the win and, move back to 500 and go 5-5. And
this is a game they need to win if they're going to have any shot at making the playoffs. They lose this game, they're done. They lose this game, there's no way they're making the playoffs. You cannot lose, especially at this point in the season. You cannot lose to it. I know Deshaun Watson's a really good quarterback, but this is a terrible roster, which made it probably one of the worst trades in league history in the offseason, and everyone knows what that was, trading DeAndre Hopkins, seeing the catch he made. If the Patriots lose this game, there is no way they're making the playoffs.
Yeah, there's not. I definitely agree with you there. This is a team that they should beat. The team that they've done usually pretty well against. They lost a tough one last year, but because their schedule gets tough coming up. You got Arizona at home next week, and then you go to a 3-game road trip.
Yeah, you got the Chargers, which they can win, but then you got the Rams, and you got the 3 division team. You got the Dolphins, you got the Bills, and then luckily you got the Jets at the end.
Yeah, so this is a must-win game. It gets you back because there's going to be a team probably in the AFC that's going to have 9 or 10 wins that may get left out of the playoffs. So, they can't really afford another, a loss here to Texan team that you definitely should beat. So, definitely, if they want to stay in the race, they got to win this game on the road.
We got an AFC matchup in Baltimore, and it's a rematch of a game in the divisional round of the playoffs last year as the Titans head to Baltimore to face the Ravens. But the big difference between the Titans this year and last year is their defense. And their defense is not the same. And last year, a big reason why they won that game against the Ravens was they completely shut down the Ravens' running game. And I don't think that's going to happen this time. I think the Ravens are going to be able to run the ball well against the Titans' defense. I think Ingram's going to run the ball well. I think Dobbins is. And I think Gus Edwards is. I think Lamar Jackson will get his yards on the ground too. He may be able to throw a touchdown. He might throw a touchdown pass as well. I do think the Titans have success on the ground too. You saw in the game against the Ravens against the Patriots. They had a lot of trouble stopping the run. I think they'll have trouble stopping Derrick Henry again, just like they did in the playoff game. But at the end of the day, I think this game again comes down to the end where either the Titans have to stop the Ravens running game or Ryan Tannehill has the ball in his hands. And I don't think the Titans do either. I don't think they can get a late score against the Ravens defense or stop the Ravens running game late. And that's why I got the Ravens winning this game. And I got them winning it 24-19 over the Titans.
Yeah, I got the Ravens again bounce back from last year's playoff blowout. I got them win 28-24. I think one of the big things for the Ravens that I think they're struggling the passing game too is I think they're really missing Hayden Hurst. And now that they're not down Nick Boyle, I think that really could make a difference in this game. Now they're down to 1 tight end. Their passing game obviously has not been great all year. The Titans, they're definitely going to have a hard time slowing this team down. And especially if they play the same coverage that they did against the Colts, because Phillip Rivers can't beat you down the field, but they were giving them 5-6 yards every time. And, they can the Ravens like to kind of play that dink and donk game. They could play that dink and donk game. just hand it off, just give it to the running backs or a Marquise Brown and all that. And, they could definitely have some success moving the football. And I think they will, and the Ravens will win this game 20-24.
Yes. So we got a AFC South matchup in New Orleans as the Falcons travel to New Orleans to face the Saints. Drew Brees is going to be out, and that's obviously going to be a big injury. I mean, you puncture lug and ribs, so he's definitely going to be out. I think 3 to 4 weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if he's out until the playoffs. I mean, his status is uncertain because he got hurt in the Week 11 game against the Niners, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's out until the playoffs. One thing about the Saints is they have probably one of the best backups in the league, and that's Jameis Winston. I mean, yeah, he threw 30 interceptions last year, but he also threw 33 touchdowns. He threw for over 5,000 yards. That's the one luxury the Saints have. That's why signing Winston in the offseason was a really good move for them because this reason that they have him in this game. And I think the Saints offense is not going to miss a beat in this game. Yes, they won't be as good with Drew Brees, but knowing Jameis Winston, he knows this division. He's played Atlanta a bunch of times. I think he has a big game. I think he gets the ball to Alvin Kamara. I think he gets the ball to Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, and they use Taysom Hill as a receiver and a running back at times. I do think the Falcons move the ball too. There's a good chance the Saints might not have Marshawn Lattimore in this game, so I think Matt Ryan gets the ball to Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. But at the end, I got the Saints winning this, and I got the Saints winning it close, and I got them going 8-2. I got the Saints beating the Falcons 27-24.
Yeah, I get the Saints at home winning this one 30-24. I think definitely Winston. I think now you're going to see the Saints kind of offense go back to kind of what they used to be. I think they're going to take a lot of shots, go downfield. Because Jameis Winston's going to put up a lot of points, but he's going to give up a lot of points. He's going to turn the ball over. He's going to put the opponents in better field position. But that's kind of what you get from him. But, they'll definitely put up some points. They were 5-0 last year without Brees. And Teddy Bridgewater is a, decent quarterback. But, now you get a guy like Jameis that likes to go downfield, and they're going to be able to. So I think, the Saints are really going to be able to move this ball against this weak Falcons defense. And then, for Atlanta, they'll be able to move the ball. And I think but I just think that they won't be able to do enough to beat the Saints at the Superdome. New Orleans struggled the first quarter last week, but kind of got going second, third quarter, and they blew out the Niners. So I'm going to take the Saints go to 8-2 and hopefully continue to look like the best team in the NFC.
Before we go to our next game, we got some breaking news, and Joe says the Giants have fired offensive line coach Mark Colombo. And they're going to bring in Del Grumio. He was their and don't forget, Dave was their offensive line coach when they won the Super Bowl in 2007. So he's coming back. I see some of Joe's other comments. Colombo didn't like the idea of a consultant, and Judge let him go. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing right now for the Giants is their offensive line has definitely, I think, been the weakest part of their team this season. It has gotten better, but it has been the weakest part of their team this year. So I do think this move makes sense a little bit because, I mean, yes, Andrew Thomas has improved, but, Will Hernandez was not good before he got hurt. Kevin Zeitler was having his worst season. Obviously, Nick Gates has struggled, and Cam Fleming is absolutely terrible. So I don't mind this move. Joe Judge is holding people accountable. He wants the best out of every position, and I think that I don't mind the move. Dave Del Grumio, he's been in this league for a long time. He was the offensive line coach with the Patriots when they won the Super Bowl in 2014, so he's been there for a while. So I don't mind the move. I don't mind the shakeup here. I think yes, they're on a 2-game winning streak, but I don't mind the shakeup, and we'll see what happens going forward.
Yeah, this is the week to do it on the bye week. This is the week to kind of make changes within the coaching staff. And Giants, it's kind of been the one they have improved, but this is like the one area I think so far that they're not really great at. I know Thomas has been playing better than what he was at the beginning of the year. But especially if I don't know how to pronounce. Del Gamio, is it?
Yeah, I think. Joe, do you know the pronunciation of his name? Yeah, it's tough to pronounce. Yeah, but he's had a lot of experience in this league.
It looks like It looks like Di Giulimo. How you would
Limo,
say
yeah,
that?
yeah.
G would be silent in Italian. So do Giulimino, do Guglielmo,
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like that.
something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Let's
Well,
just call him Coach D.
Coach D, gotcha, Coach D. Yeah, but Coach D, he's had a lot of he's had success in this league. I mean, with the Giants, with the Patriots, previously under Joe Judge. So, I like the move as a Giants fan. I like the shakeup there, even though they're on a 2-game winning streak. I like the shakeup, and I like how Judge is holding everyone accountable.
Yeah, that's definitely a good sign that Judge is holding everybody accountable. Then good to have Judge and Coach D know each other too from being in the organization. Coach D knows the Giants organization as well, especially if Joe Judge is really trying to bring back those old teams of they want to be physical up front and all that. I think this is definitely a smart move for the Giants to make this, especially with the rookie Thomas, and then even Matt Parrott that's been pretty good when he's gotten his time this year as well. So it's definitely a good move for the Giants, and definitely could be one in their favor.
Absolutely, absolutely. But we're going to circle back to the Week 11 games, and we're going to probably the most lopsided game of Week 11. Yeah, and the Jags have been a surprise recently, but I think they're not going to be as good as they were against the Texans and the Packers. The Steelers head down to face the Jaguars, and I think this game ends up being a blowout. I think this is this complete blowout. I think that the Steelers win this game 31-10. I think they have success on the ground with James Conner. I think Big Ben has a good game. I think that he gets the ball to Claypool and Juju Smith-Schuster. And I think that again the Steelers defense gets pressure on Jake Luton. And I think that the biggest difference here and why the Jaguars won't compete is I don't think that James Robinson is going to have the game that he had against the Packers and the Texans. And I think that's going to be a big problem. And I got the Steelers winning 31-10 over the Jags.
For me, the reason why I say this game to be 20-13 Pittsburgh is because this is, and I know Pittsburgh blew out Cincinnati last week, but Pittsburgh likes to win these very low scoring, ugly football games. So I think, Jacksonville is going to be able to hang around with them. Can they move the ball enough? I don't think so. But I don't really, I could, with how bad the Jags defense has been, I could definitely see the Steelers putting up 30 on them, but I don't really see, I just feel like the Steelers are going to try to run the ball in this game, and try to just manage the clock and just, I don't really see them blowing them out. As long as the Jaguars don't turn the ball over, they can, get a couple of turnovers. Big Ben's throwing a couple of them, or, a couple of interceptions. I definitely see the Jaguars keeping this thing close. But again, Jacksonville's gonna have to protect Jake Luton. I don't know if that's gonna, that it worries me that they're not gonna be able to. But the way Pitt likes to really play games, for an exception of last week, is just keeping games close and kind of winning them ugly. And I think this is gonna be one of those games.
We got an interconference matchup in Cleveland, which has a lot of interest to Giants fans, as the Eagles head to Cleveland to face the Browns. And this is a matchup of two offenses, one that knows who they are. The Browns, they know who they are. They want to run the ball with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And the Eagles, their offense pretty much has no identity. Do they want to play through Carson Wentz? Do they want to play through Miles Sanders? The Eagles right now have no identity on offense. That's why they're really struggling. And in this game, I think Cleveland does a really good job running the football like they have in all their wins. I think they run the ball with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Baker Mayfield, makes the plays he needs to make. And for the Eagles, I think that Carson Wentz will make plays, and Miles Sanders will get some yards on the ground. But the problem is, I'm taking the team with more of an identity on offense. I'm taking the Browns in this game. I think Baker Mayfield, he might not make more plays than Carson Wentz, but he'll definitely make less mistakes than Carson Wentz. And that's why I got the Browns beating the Eagles 27-20.
Yeah, I get the Browns winning 28-17. And that Eagles performance last week was pathetic coming out the bye. Don't get me wrong, the Giants played a really, really good game. I'm not trying to take any away from the Giants, but coming off a bye and just having that pathetic of an effort, it just was not good. It was the first time they didn't convert on a third down since 2004. It just, they don't really have any identity. And coming off a bye too, and not being able to have kind of an identity to it just it was just awful.
Doug Peterson is 1-4 coming off buys. Remember Andy Reid? Andy Reid didn't even lose any. I think Andy Reid lost one game when he was the coach of the Eagles coming off a bye.
Oh yeah, that's bad. Coming off a bye, 1-4. That's usually, you get the extra week. You get to kind of scout your opponent the week before. Yeah, that's, you being able to fix everything. That's bad. That's bad. I didn't know it was that bad. 1-4. So yeah, definitely, and then on the Brown side of things, I think Myles Garrett, he's been having a big year. I think he continues. I think he gets pressure on once. I think he makes a couple of plays. And I think, Cleveland to be able to run the ball with Chubb and Kareem Hunt, they're gonna be, and Baker's just gonna manage this game well. They'll keep the ball out of Carson Wentz's hands, and Browns will win this game by double digits.
Got an NFC matchup down in Carolina as the Lions travel down to Carolina to face the Panthers. And in this game, if the Panthers had a healthy McCaffrey and a healthy Bridgewater, I picked them to win this game. But both their statuses are uncertain for the game on Sunday. And I know Stafford is banged up for the Lions, but I feel like the Lions are going to be able to run the ball with Matthew Stafford. And I think that Stafford's going to make enough plays in the game. They might not score a lot of touchdowns, but I think they'll kick a lot of field goals. Same thing with the Panthers. Even if P.J. Walker plays quarterback, I think they'll be able to move the football, but not score a lot of touchdowns and kick a lot of field goals. And that's why I got the Lions winning this game. I got the Lions winning a close one. I got the Lions beating the Panthers 23-16.
Yeah, I got the Panthers winning 27-24. I'm anticipating Bridgewater playing. If not, probably definitely more low scoring, and I probably give the edge to the Lions. But I think this is, Bridgewater plays. I think it's a game where, as usual, Detroit gets up in front of the team, and Carolina comes back, and Teddy leads them down the field for a game winner. I think Mike Davis could have a big game on the ground for whoever plays quarterback for the Panthers. I think they'll be able to run the ball. And I liked how the Lions have really gotten DeAndre Swift involved in the offense.
Yeah, good game last week. Yeah. He had a good game last week for them.
And then I think even before their bye too, I think even against the Vikings, he played well. Colts, I think he caught a touchdown. So they've been really getting in the last few weeks, which is a good sign. With Stafford banged up, I think Carolina is going to be able to get the win at home and move to 4-7. I trust Carolina to pull out a game more than I trust the Lions.
We got a interconference matchup down in D.C. as the Bengals head down to D.C. to face the Washington football team. And I think this is going to be a really close competitive game. I think the Redskins, who Alex Smith has actually played pretty well, especially last week. He didn't play badly last week. Brought him back down from 24-3 to tie that game, and unfortunately they'll end up losing on a game-winning field goal. But I think Alex Smith is going to play well. I think they'll get the run game going with Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick. And I think on the Bengals side, I think Joe Burrow has a good game too. But I think the big difference in this game is I think the Redskins protect their quarterback better than the Bengals do. And I think the Redskins front four makes a play, especially late in the game. Either Chase Young or Montez Sweat makes a play late in this game. And that's why I got the Washington winning this by one score. I got Washington beating the Bengals 23-20.
I got Cincy going on the road and getting the win 23-21. The big key in this game is, yes, if the Bengals can somehow protect Joe Burrow and be able to, give him some time, I definitely think the Bengals make enough plays. Because Washington secondary, they're ranked second right now in the passing game. But I think, Bengals could definitely make some plays. And I think, also they can force some Alex Smith turnover or just some turnovers in general. Alex Smith, it was great to see him play well last week and see him be able to come back, bring his team back. I know that, they lost on the field goal by Matt Prater, but, and then for the Bengals too, they were 0-for-13 last week on third down. They're only 38% on the year, so they got to get third and manageable. I believe Joe Mixon's still questionable, so it would help. If they get him back too, would be nice. So I think the Bengals do enough on the road to get the win.
We go to the 4:00 games, and here's a spread that I don't understand at all. I don't understand how a team with Phillip Rivers out of his prime with their quarterback. I know they're 6-3, but you got Phillip Rivers out of his prime. They're a 2-point favorite to beat the Packers, who are right now currently the number one seed in the NFC. Even though the Packers did have a rough week last week, barely squeaking by the Jaguars, but this week I think the Packers definitely come to play this week. I think that Aaron Rodgers has a big game passing the ball, getting the ball to Valdez Scantling and Devontae Adams. I do think the run game isn't that much of a factor because the Colts do a really good job stopping the run. And on offense for the Colts, I think they run the football too with whoever really has the hot hand. If it's Nakeem Hines like it was last Thursday night, if it's Jonathan Taylor, or if it's Wilkins, whoever has the hot hand, I think the Colts run the ball well. But I think this game comes right down to the end, and I think the ball's in Phillip Rivers' hands. And unfortunately, he either doesn't drive them to the game-winning touchdown, or he turns the ball over. And that's why I got the Packers win it close. I got the Packers beating the Colts 27-23.
Yeah, I get the Packers winning this 24-21. The only thing I could just say about the line is that's one of the, either Vegas really thinks that the Colts, are like really, thought Titans were a really, really good football team, or it also could mean Vegas knows something that we don't, which means, usually Colts probably somehow, would win the game. But I do have the Packers win this 24-21. I trust Aaron Rodgers more than I trust Phillip Rivers. And again, I don't mention it, but the way the Titans played their coverage, they just let Phillip Rivers just complete 5-6 yard passes every time.
And I think Jari Alexander is going to take either Pittman Jr. or Hilton or Pascal and pretty much take that receiver away. I think that's a big thing that they're going to do, and that's going to affect Phillip Rivers in this game.
Yeah, and then that will definitely cause Phillip to make some turnovers, make some mistakes, or just miss guys. So that's definitely a big factor in this game. And if the Packers can just slow down their three-headed monster, who's ever the one Colts guy that does have the high hand in the moment, if they can slow down that guy and make Phillip Rivers kind of have to win the game through the air, I definitely think the Packers come away with this win and move to 8-2.
We got an NFC matchup in Minnesota between the red-hot Minnesota Vikings, who've won 3 in a row, and the Dallas Cowboys, who've lost 4 in a row. These teams are going in 2 completely different directions, and I think that's going to be the story on Sunday. Even though the Vikings are coming off a short week, they came off a win over the Bears, I think they don't really have a problem in this game. I think Dalvin Cook's run the ball well. Wasn't going to be able to get Adam, Justin Jefferson. And I think on offense, the boys are absolutely terrible with Andy Dalton starting. And Andy Dalton is probably the starting quarterback in the league right now. I think he's going to struggle. Minnesota defense isn't good. It's been getting better recently. And I think Dalton's going to struggle. And I got the Vikings winning this game. I got the Vikings winning it big. I got them winning 28-10 over the Cowboys.
Yeah, I got the Vikings winning this one 30-17. I think, again, Mike Zimmer's done a great job. This team kind of looked, dead at 1-5. They go to Green Bay, get the win, and now, they could end this homestand here at 7-5 and be looking at a wild card spot. So Mike Zimmer's done a great job of turning the corner for this team. That was coming off the bye here. And I know we only saw Garrett Gilbert for one game, but I thought that he gave the team more life than
I feel like he's better than Andy Dalton right now, honestly. And I don't understand why they're not riding the hot hand and they're going back to Andy Dalton, who was absolutely terrible. Yeah, he had that game-winning drive against the Giants, but he was absolutely terrible in the games against the Cardinals and the Redskins.
Yeah, he was. Garrett Gilbert gave you he kept doing that game against the Steelers, and the Cowboy definitely could have won. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting move here. There's no way Dallas is gonna be able to stop the running attack here of Dalvin Cook. He's gonna have a huge game. Another 3-4 touchdowns for him. And yeah, Vikings will move to 5-5. Kirk Cousins will do enough, and yeah, Minnesota 30-17.
The Dolphins try to extend their winning streak to 6 games on Sunday as they head out to Denver to face the Broncos. And I think they do that. I don't care who's running the ball for the Dolphins. I think they have success on the ground. I think Tua plays well and manages the game. And I think the biggest reason why they win this game by 2 scores is Drew Lock has played poorly. He played a terrible game last week. I was dumb enough to pick them last week against the Raiders. But, Drew Lock had a terrible game last week. And I don't think he's probably not even going to start this week. I think it's Brett Rippon who's going to start for the Broncos. And I think that Dolphins defense plays really well. And I got the Dolphins winning this one by 2 scores. I got the Dolphins beating the Broncos 24-13.
Yeah, I got it 21-13. Lock's been banged up. Lock had not played well at all. The turnover margin is -12, and you're playing a Miami team that's been good at forcing some turnovers. Their defense has been lights out. I think the Dolphins, so definitely will win this game. They'll, I think this is one of the games where Tua doesn't have to do a ton so far, or he won't have to do a ton. They'll be able to kind of just run the ball. They'll get a lead early and just kind of just play off the momentum for the lead. I think, I think I may have been wrong about Drew Lock. I know it's still early, but I really liked him. But right now, I'm really starting to change my opinion at the moment about Drew Lock.
Yeah, he's just not played well. And we got a comment from Frank. Have you seen the Dolphins defense? I sure have seen the Dolphins defense, Frank, and I think potentially that's definitely a top 10 defense in the NFL. If you look at their top 3 in points scored, Byron Jones and Xavier and Howard are outside of Humphrey and Peters in Baltimore. That's the best pair of corners in the league. I mean, they got Kyle Van Noy, who's played pretty well. I mean, Emmanuel Ogbah, he's a really good year. He's a really underrated player in that defense, and obviously, has not played that poorly at linebacker too. And their defense, I'm telling you, it's really. I think that's the biggest. And yes, Tua has been very good. He had the ball over, but that's, I think, the biggest reason why the Dolphins are 6-3. Their defense has been. It's a top 10 defense in the league, and the defense has been really good.
Yeah, it has. And I know that, and it's a defense too that I think is getting better by the week. I think the first few weeks against the Patriots Bills, they kind of really struggled, but then it's gotten better pretty much, since like that Niner game. I didn't even think they played that bad against Seattle either with how good their offense has been. But yeah, the last few weeks they've been really good. That Byron Jones signing's been great. Howard's one of the best corners in the league right now. So yeah, I definitely agree. I think this defense right now, they got a lot of young pieces. So I think the future is really bright for the Miami D, and they're improving week in and week out, and they should be able to shut down the Denver offense.
Without question. But we got a game of 2 pumping teams out in LA as the Jets travel all the way out to LA, the winless Jets, to face the Los Angeles Chargers, who are 2-7. And I think in this game, I think the Chargers, this is a get-right game for the Chargers. I think they're able to run the ball with Justin Jackson and with Justin Jackson and Kalen Ballage. I think that Justin Herbert has a good game getting the ball to Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. And I think Sam Darnold might make some plays, but not enough plays. And that's why I got the Chargers winning this game by 2 scores. I got the Chargers beating the Jets 27-13.
I get the Chargers 28-20. I can't trust the Chargers to blow out anybody right now because it's just, they're going to, I think that, because Joe Flacco moved the ball pretty well with New England. No Sam Darnold again, which when he came back in from that Denver game and now he's having this many, that it's really become a problem with the shoulder. Coming off a bye week, it's pretty bad look on the organization for even putting him out there against Denver. But I think, so Flacco, I think be able to move the ball offensively, but defensively, I don't think they're making enough stops. Justin Herbert's going to be able to make enough plays and I could definitely see this game Chargers up by 2 scores and kind of the Jets maybe make like a late push here in the fourth quarter. I just don't, these are 2 of the worst coaches right now in the league. So I see the Chargers trying, keeping this thing interesting for a while.
We got a big AFC West matchup on Sunday night as the Chiefs try to get revenge against the Raiders, who gave them their only loss of the season. And this should be a great game. I mean, I think it's gonna be a fun game. It's gonna be an exciting game. I think for Kansas City, they're gonna move the ball a ton again, just like the first game. I think Kansas City's gonna be able to move the ball a lot against this Raiders defense with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And I think for the Raiders, I think the Raiders have success on offense too, with Derek Carr, with Josh Jacobs, and with Darren Waller. But I just can't see the Raiders beating Mahomes twice. I like the Raiders. I think they have a very good chance of making the playoffs this year. I just can't see them beating Mahomes twice. I got the Chiefs winning this one close. I got the Chiefs beating the Raiders 34-27.
Yeah, my brother and dad may kill me, but I'm taking the Raiders 31-27. I think the Raiders, it does worry me because Andy Reid coming off a bye,
He's great. He's outstanding coming off buys.
Which does worry me in this game. But the Raiders right now, they're up there in time of possession. They're averaging, they have the ball average about 33 minutes a game. I just see Carr being able to manage this game. And again, Devontae Booker has been such a nice signing, just with the complementary now of Josh Jacobs, really helped that running game out. I see Derek Carr not making too many mistakes. If the Raiders can get out to the lead and keep it and just be able to run the ball with Josh Jacobs, I think they have a really, really solid chance to win this game. I didn't like how KC went in the bye when playing Carolina. I know they smoked the Jets and smoked the Broncos before that, but I didn't like the way they entered the bye. And I really
Joe says he's with you with the Raiders. Yeah. Yeah. And they actually, I was on Keys to the City. I was actually commenting on Keys to the City yesterday, and they were doing like pretenders and contenders. And I was listing my contenders, and I also had the Chiefs, I had the Steelers, I had the Ravens. I even put the Bills there, and I said one last one was the Raiders, but I felt like they definitely were the team I was the least confident but they did beat the Chiefs. But still, the reason I would say that is the defense is below average still, and the quarterback, I like the quarterback a lot, but he's not. I still don't think Derek Carr is as good as Mahomes, Big Ben, or Lamar. So I put the Raiders in that conversation, but if they win this game, I'll promise everyone that they will be completely on my contenders list if they win this game. I promise everyone that the Raiders win this game.
All right, and
as Joe says, he just has to be good enough to win games. Exactly.
And he has been this year, and I think it's really opened things up that they've been good. Again, it's been run first, and he's kind of just been more of a game manager. And I know Joe probably commented too. It would not shock me if the Raiders gave the Chiefs their only 2 losses, because my brother thought this year they could win 9 to 10 games. I kind of laughed. I was like, I don't think you guys won more than 8, but he's been right so far, and I think their defense, if they can kind of force Mahomes to make a mistake or two, I think they definitely win this game. I'm going to take the Raiders at home 31-27.
It should be a great game. Should be a great game either way, but I just can't bet against Mahomes to lose to a team twice in 1 year. I just don't see that happening. But we got to get to a Monday night game, and this is another great game as we got the 6-3 Rams again going down to Tampa to face the 7-3 Buccaneers. And a lot of people have argued that these might be the 2 best teams in the NFC. I kind of disagree a little bit. I think the Buccaneers are a better team. Honestly, if the Rams had Andrew Whitworth at left tackle, and they're going to miss him because he's going to be out, he's probably going to be out for the rest of the regular season, I think the Rams would have had the most complete team in the NFC West. But his absence, I think, is going to hurt this offense because Jared Goff is very, very reliant on not having – he's very good when he's not pressured. But the problem with Jared Goff is once you pressure him, he is a different quarterback. And I think that's what's going to happen in this game. I think that Goff's going to have trouble against this Buccaneers defense because I think Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul are going to get pressure on him. I think Goff's going to struggle in this game. He might turn the ball over once. I think the loss of Whitworth is really going to hurt the Rams in this game. Also, I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball. And a big reason why the Rams offense is better than it was last year is they've been able to run the ball with Dontrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown, and their offensive line has been much improved from what it was last year. So I think they're going to have trouble doing that. And on the defensive side of the ball, I do think Jalen Ramsey, just like last week against DK Metcalf, I do think he's going to give Mike Evans trouble. The problem, though, for the Rams is the Buccaneers are really deep at receiver, and I think Brady's going to get the ball around. He's going to spread the ball around to he's going to definitely get the ball to Chris Godwin. I think Chris Godwin might have one of his best games of the season this year. And I think that Antonio Brown's going to contribute, and also Scotty Miller. I think Brady's going to have a really good game. And I got the Bucs for this, and I got them winning by double digits. I got the Bucs beating the Rams 27-17.
Wow, I got the Bucs 23-20. I know Whitmer's a huge loss, but I really like this Rams defense. Brady's really struggled too this year against the blitz. He's ranked 32nd out of 33 quarterbacks that qualified right now against the blitz. So I think if the Rams can get pressure, which I think they definitely could, the Bucs defense or offensive line's been good, but I still think, Aaron Donald can get some pressure on Brady. And I think the Rams can keep this thing close. But, yeah, losing Whitmore is such a huge loss. And I think the Bucs, the same thing, are going to get pressure on Jared Goff, and he'll make some mistakes in this game. But I think the Bucs do pull it out. And they looked good in that second half last week against the Panthers. But as long as the Bucks can get out to an early lead and have to kind of come back and throw the ball, I think Bucks should definitely win this game.
It should be a good one. Should be a good one. Should be a great week of NFL this week. Got a lot of really good games. But we got to shift over to the NBA, and this is a huge week in the NBA. And before we get to the draft tonight, we got to get to the trades that have been happening this week. And obviously, the biggest news has been James Harden, and James Harden wanting out of Houston. That has been the big news for the Rockets. And the Rockets said today that they're in no rush to trade either Harden or Westbrook, but this week, he rejected an extension. It's a 2-year, $103 million extension, which would have made him the highest player in the NBA, making over $50 million a year. But he rejected that, and he really, really wants to get to the Nets. And if you look, if they could get the Nets could pull this off. The Nets and Rockets could pull off this trade. You look at the Nets' big three: Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden. Talent-wise, that is better than the Warriors' big three of Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, and Klay Thompson. That's a better big three. I mean, coaching-wise and chemistry-wise, it might not be as good, but talent-wise, that's a better big three. And if the Nets could somehow pull this off, they'll obviously be – oh, we got a comment from Frank. James Harden goes to the Nets, that will be a disaster. Here's where I bet Frank, because he's a Dolphins fan, I bet he's a Heat fan too. Mm-hmm. So here's the one thing about this. If he does go to the Nets, yes, chemistry could be an issue with Durant, with Kyrie, and with Harden. Chemistry could definitely be an issue there. But as we've known for years, the NBA is a players' league. And again, all three love the ball. Harden is a baby when he doesn't get the ball. Yes. They all are. And as he said, yes, he's a Heat fan, and we know the Heat. We know the Heat. They're the best organization in the league, and they proved that this year. But yeah, I mean, I think that yes, the chemistry could be an issue, and obviously Steve Nash being a first-year head coach, that could be an issue too. But I feel like the talent of those three guys, and those three guys are all outstanding one-on-one players that could all drop, 40, 50 points a night. I think eventually the talent of those three would prevail. I wouldn't guarantee if they got Harden that they would win the championship or even the East. Absolutely not. But I'd have to have them as my favorite if they got James Harden just because of the talent of those three guys.
Yeah, they would definitely be the favorite. I don't think that they would work though. So Kyrie, okay, so yeah, because there's not enough basketballs on the floor for these three. Kevin Durant's absolutely not being your number three. James Harden's not going to be your three. Is not your number three scorer. So Kyrie's not going to want to be that either. But Kyrie, in reality, would probably have to be that guy. And I don't think that would go over very well for Kyrie because Kyrie's openly talked about being the guy. He wants to come back. He's a Brooklyn guy. He wants to come back and win the Nets a title. I don't think he would take the backseat role here. I think this would become toxic very, very quickly. I don't think it would pan out, and it would make for great kind of New York media. But
oh God, it'd be crazy.
Yeah, it would, especially if the thing turns into a disaster, which I think it really would. I just don't think those three. All three of those, I get maybe not Durant as much, but James Harden and Kyrie Irving want the ball in their hand every single time, and one of them's have to give it up. And I don't think both of them. Maybe I don't. They definitely could be willing, but I just don't see it. I think those three are guys that want the ball. They kind of have that alpha mentality, and I don't think it would work out. I think maybe they get to the finals. Again, they could definitely win one if they somehow kind of get it together, but I don't think it would work out in the Nets' favor. I think it could, turn into a complete disaster.
I want to get to some of Frank's points, and he said someone's going to have to take a back seat, and that's an excellent point by Frank. And really, you've seen in their careers these three guys, Durant, Harden, and Durant, Harden, and Kyrie. None of those guys want to take a back seat, and even yes, Kyrie won as a number two, but 2 years later he got ticked off. A year later he got ticked off being a number two, and he ended up wanting to leave LeBron and his career. And you see what's happened to his career since. He hasn't had the same success since he's left LeBron, and obviously you look at James Harden. I mean, him and Chris Paul didn't get along. Russell Westbrook wanted out too, And he made a good point about the Heat. The Heat understood what it was when LeBron got there. Yes, at the beginning it was a little bit of a struggle, but you expected it. But once they got going, they understood. Dwayne Wade was smart. Even though Dwayne Wade won an NBA championship, he was a Finals MVP. He was smart enough to understand LeBron's a better player than me, and I got to take a back seat. He took a back seat. Bosh was fine being the number 3, and it worked perfectly. They won 2 championships, and they got to 4 straight NBA Finals. So, yes, I think this is a talent-dominated league, but Frank makes a great point. For this to work, all these guys got to understand their roles, and these are not 3 players. Yes, 2 of these players have won MVPs in this league, but these are not 3 players that are right now that have proven in their time in this league that they're going to even take a second role, to even take a role with being a number 2. And one of them is now going to have to take a role being a number 3. So yes, talent-wise, it definitely is probably the most talented big 3 we've ever had. But will these guys be willing to sacrifice? That's the big question.
Yeah, Frank made some really good points, and I don't think they're going to. Yeah, I just don't think they'll be able to, because and I think that's one of the kind of the, because Wade knew it, and then Bosh kind of knew, okay, these 2 are better. I'm going to take that third type of spot. I don't see these 3 guys being willing. Again, they may talk about it, but when they're on the floor, I don't see it happening. They may be excited now about it. In reality, there's no way, because it would have to be Kyrie Irving. It would have to. And you made the point that he wanted to be traded after being a number 2 to LeBron. He's I think him and Kevin Durant were going to be like the 1A, 1B. But now
we weren't even sure how that was going to work with those 2. I mean, we weren't sure how that was going to work. Now you bring in another ego. Talent-wise, it's great, but as you said, how are the 3 egos? What's going to happen if they all come together?
Yeah, and I just don't think it's going to work. It just seems like a formula for disaster. And then also too, it's like you would have to give up, Spencer Dinwiddie, Chris LeVert, probably, Jared Allen, and it's like they have some. And that's the other thing too, is I know the Lakers won, but they didn't have much bench. I'd rather have some depth, to this team, instead of just a big 3 and then it's kind of just plugging guys in every night, at different positions. So also in that standpoint, I just rather, because I think they have they have some young talented kind of core behind Irving and Durant also. So I just see it being a big mistake for the Nets. The last time they tried to trade off a big trade like this with Pierce, Garnett, and Rondo.
But I don't think you can compare that, because with Pierce and KG, those guys were past their primes. And they weren't even elite players in the league anymore. These 3 guys, I mean, at least the Harden and Durant, they're clearly top 10 players in the game, and Kyrie's probably a top 15 player in the game and a top 10 scorer in the game. So I don't think you could compare when Pierce and KG came there. Yes, they traded up. They traded parts, but I love trying to go for it and get James Harden and trying to get a championship, even though it might not work out because of the 3 egos. I do like the fact the Nets are trying to get James Harden.
I can't get behind them doing it. I just think they're better off with Kyrie. Again, you add that obviously big 3. I'd rather just have the depth part of it, because you just have so much young. They brought in talent. You just throw that all away, and for something that I think it's just going to turn into a disaster. I really don't think these big 3 are going to work. Again, maybe it does turn into, they win 74 regular season games one year. I can definitely see that happen. I just don't think it will. But even look at kind of like the Clippers this year. I know they
and Frank made another comment. Yeah, look, maybe the 3 have spoken about this. Who knows? We all remember that was a big thing when Miami had their big 3 with Bosh, Wade, and James. They all pretty much created that together. So you never know. The three might have not spoken. The three might have spoken about this, and they might be behind the scenes trying to put this together. And that's a big thing that's happened in the NBA over the last decade.
Yeah, which is another point. Why can't say in the NBA, but they definitely because Durant and Harden have played together. Have all three of them played on an Olympic team? I think they have, right?
I'm not sure if they play on an Olympic team together, but I don't think that really matters because
like just knowing each other wise,
I think they obviously all know each other, but we know Durant and Harden played together with the Thunder that when they got to the finals in 2012. But I don't think Kyrie has. I mean, obviously they were on the team last year, but they didn't play. But Kyrie hasn't played with either of the two of them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he hasn't. But they probably may have spoken about it, but I just to me it just does not seem like you definitely have the best team in the league, but it just those three I don't see them working out. I just see the egos getting in the way, and I could see them ending in a couple Eastern Conference Finals appearances.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening there. It should be interesting to see what the Rockets and Nets do there. But we got to get to some of the other trades. And one of the former Rockets, Chris Paul, he has been traded. He was obviously played for the Thunder last year. He's been traded to the Phoenix Suns. And personally, I really don't like this move for the Suns. I think they're kind of giving up on Kelly Oubre, who had some potential. And I think Devin Booker's better, and they're giving up a first-round pick. And I think Devin Booker's better when he has the ball in his hands. I think Booker might not average as many points a game with Paul being the point guard. I think Booker's better. I think the Suns are probably a better team. You saw the way he played in the bubble. The Suns are a better team when Booker has the ball in his hands. So I really don't like this trade. Even though the Suns will win more games, I still think they're not going to get out of the first round.
No, I don't think so. And they're in the Pacific Division too. They're still the fourth best team in that division. The Warriors are not. The Warriors are going to be much better this year as well. Obviously, you got the two big LA teams that they're not going anywhere. So yeah, to me, it was such a weird move. And for a guy because they had Ricky Rubio, he's a guy that is better kind of off ball and just with assisting wise, and I think that was a huge help for Booker. But yeah, now you bring in a guy like Chris Paul, I definitely don't. It was definitely a weird move, and I'm not a big fan of either. I don't think it's gonna help Devin Booker out. Again, I don't know because I just don't know how much better this team's going to be with them. It's the Pacific Division with those Warriors, Clippers, Lakers. It's just so deep that it's a move that they're not really going anywhere. They're better than the Kings still. That move didn't make them. They were better than the Kings before the move, and they still are after. So it was a weird move. I didn't understand it. I'm not a big fan of it either.
The Bucks went out and made a deal yesterday, and I think this deal getting Drew Holiday, this is pretty much a deal to try to keep Giannis in Milwaukee, but I just don't think this deal is really going to keep him in Milwaukee. I like Drew Holiday, but he has issues staying healthy. And again, they got rid of 3 first-round picks. And Frank made a good point about the Suns. He thinks the Suns gave up too much for Chris Paul, and I agree with him. They gave up too much for a team that's probably going to get beat in the first round of the playoffs. Now, circling back to the Bucks, I think they gave up a little bit too much too for Drew Holiday. There's a very good chance you'll lose Giannis next year, and you're mortgaging future first-round picks. So I think they gave up too much here, even though this move getting Holiday, he is an upgrade over Eric Bledsoe, and this move could definitely get the Bucks to the final. So I could see this move both. I see this going both ways for the Bucks.
Yeah, I'm same, and you could see they're mortgaging their whole future to keep Giannis here. If Giannis does leave, they're in some serious problems here with how much they've given up. But yeah, if Drew Holiday could stay healthy for this team, I think it definitely could be a nice factor because Eric Bledsoe struggled in the playoffs. It wasn't great. George Hill, he's kind of up there in prime. I think, we've seen Drew Holiday. He's been good when he could stay healthy. He's been a really, really good point guard when he could stay healthy. That's the big thing here. They did give up a lot for him, and I as well. But I like I do like the move, trying to really fix everything around Giannis and really try to help, give him as much assets as they can. But yeah, I think they gave up a little bit too much for him. But you can see they're really desperate to keep Giannis in Milwaukee right now.
Absolutely. get to the last trade, and that was we'll quickly talk about this one. Robert Covington, he went to the he got traded from the Blazers, from the Rockets to the Blazers for two first round picks and Trevor Ariza, and I think again the Blazers, I think the Blazers gave up too much to go get Robert Covington. I mean, Robert Covington is a good player, but he's not a great player, and I just don't think another team I think is going to be one and done.
Yeah, 2 first rounders for Robert Coventry. That is that was too much. He's a good player, but I wouldn't trade 2 first rounders for him. But you can kind of, with draft picks now, it just seems like teams are just throwing them around like they're nothing now. That used to be such a big asset for building teams. But for some of these guys, they just just throw them around nowadays. Don't really keep them. But yeah, it's a move that just it was another weird one. I guess I think they understood that Robert Coventry can't play the 5, especially in the playoffs. That experiment went horribly wrong for Houston. But you can kind of see Houston starting to move towards the future right now. But yeah, another kind of just too much they're giving up there.
Absolutely. It's funny. Teams are just giving up draft picks. I know they're not like NFL draft picks because NBA draft picks, guys take time to develop, but teams are just throwing draft picks out there like crazy. I mean, the Blazers, the Suns, the Bucks. So they're just trading draft picks like crazy. But speaking of the draft, we got to get to the draft, and the draft is tonight at 7:30 on ESPN, and the Timberwolves have the number 1 pick. And really, for me, I think there's a lot of talk. Would they take James Wiseman? Would they take Anthony Edwards? Or would they take LaMelo Ball? And I think this is an easy one for the T-Wolves. I got them taking LaMelo Ball. He's a 6'8" point guard, and who could drive to the hoop. Yes, his shooting and defense need improvement, but once that gets developed, I think this guy could be an elite player in this league. I think the pick him with Karl Anthony Towns on the pick and roll, I think that could be a lethal combination, and that's why I got the T-Wolves taking Ball with the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, I got LaMelo Ball going number 1 as well. It would be interesting with him and D'Angelo Russell as the 2 guards on that team. Yeah, but he's great in transition. Really strong ball handling, but yeah, the inconsistency shooting and the shot selection as well with the defense. If he can kind of improve that and fix all of that, he definitely could be a really good player in this league and very fun to watch.
It says Frank just commented, hopefully his father does screw him up. That's kind of funny there. Yeah, his father is crazy. We haven't heard from his father in a while, but we all know when we were hearing from his father, he was crazy.
Oh yeah, we probably will tonight. We'll hear something.
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't doubt that. With the number 2 overall pick, though, it's interesting to see the team who has the number 2 overall pick. That's the Warriors. And even though Wiseman may not be a franchise level player, he might not be the best player on a championship team. I still think the Warriors have to take Wiseman because I think the Warriors are still in contention to win a championship. They got Curry locked up for 2 more years. They got Klay Thompson locked up for 2 more years. So that's why I don't think they take Anthony Edwards. And the Warriors desperately need a center. So I think instead of taking the best player available, I think the Warriors are going to go need here. And they're going to take James Wiseman with the number 2 overall pick.
Yep, I'm with you, James Wiseman. I like him. He's kind of more of an old school center, great in the post, very good shot blocking ability. The potential's there too for him. We didn't see a ton of them at Memphis, obviously. But I guess the one weakness is that he's not great shooting wise outside of the post. But big physical guy. I like I really like this pick for the Warriors. I don't think they should trade. I think this is a guy should definitely draft because he'll make your team better for a team that needs a center.
With the number 3 overall pick, I got the Hornets taking Anthony Edwards just because he's projected to be the number 2 player in the draft. I know the Hornets have Devontae Graham and Terry Rozier, but they're not winning a ton of games with those 2 guys, and I think Edwards has more of an upside than those 2 guys do. I mean, the only thing that scares me about Anthony Edwards, you could probably answer this better than I can. You could probably talk about this better than I can, Justin, is he only won half his college games, and his consistency last year was a little bit inconsistent. I know there's a lot of potential there, but when you win half your college games as the best player in your college team, you got to be a little bit scared that this could be the player for the future, even though he has a lot of upside.
He definitely does, and you can. Ben Simmons kind of in that same spot a few years ago at LSU. That was a team that was going to get the NIT. I don't even know if Georgia was going to make the NIT last year. But he's a guy. He's very explosive. The thing is I don't know if he could. When you're taking a guy in the top 3, or even like top 5, you want him to be your number 1 scorer. I know that's not going to happen for James Wiseman because he doesn't have to in that team. But for Edwards, he would. You're kind of drafting a guy here that you want to be your franchise and your number 1 scorer. I don't know if he can consistently be that number 1 guy. I don't know if he's a guy that when you need a basket, he's going to be the guy that gets you that. That's what I'm really worried about for him. And he talked about this morning. He's not even like, basketball is kind of like he doesn't even know if he's in the basketball yet. That's also a big.
That's scary. That's scary when you're taking a guy number 3 overall. That's scary.
Yeah, it is. So that's also kind of worrying me. I saw it this morning, so I didn't, change anything, but it's definitely a concern right there. But I think the talent's there. And I think he's got it, but we'll see though. I don't know if he can be that number 1 scoring option that you want out of a guy like him. When you're picking 3rd.
With the number 4 overall pick, I got the Chicago Bulls taking Deni Avdija out of Israel, and this pick, this guy has a lot of potential. I think this guy, he could play all 4 positions on the floor. He's a 6'9" guy who could handle the ball. I think this guy actually has a lot of potential, and if this thing pans out, I think he's got potential to be the best player in this draft.
Yeah, I get Denny as well from Israel. Definitely, he's a really good ball handler. He's got the potential as well, and he's even solid defensively. The few weaknesses he has is not a great 3-point shooter. He's not a great free throw shooter. If he can develop that, I think he can turn into a very solid player in this league, and a very good player in this league. I don't think like his comparison to Gallinari, Daniel Gallinari, which he didn't turn into a bad player at all. He's a pretty solid player. So I definitely see the upside, and I think the Bulls go for Denny.
With the number 5 overall pick in the draft, I got the Cavs taking Obi Toppin, the only All-American I have going in the top 10. He had a great year at Dayton last year. This guy's versatile. He could shoot the 3. He's really good inside. And I think it's what the Cavs need because they got 2 pretty good guards in Garland and Sexton. Andre Drummond just opted in, so I think what they need is a power forward because Kevin Love's getting old. So I got them taking Obi Toppin with the number 5 overall pick, and you saw a lot of him last year, Justin.
Yeah, I love Obi. Probably my favorite guy coming out of the draft. I'm hoping there's a miracle either the team straight up for him or he falls to number 12 somehow. I know it's probably not happening, but I can dream, I guess. But
you would love if you got into the Kings.
Oh yeah, I'd be buying his jersey tonight. I'm trying to find a jersey. But yeah, he's very athletic and get the basket. Shot 63% from the field last year. His weakness is he's not great on ball defender. Guys got by him last year, kind of took him to the rim. That's my concern about him right now. But if he can figure out defensively, I think he could turn into a really, really solid player in this league. He can also hit some 3. He doesn't take a ton of them, but he shot 40%. But when he takes them, he can hit them.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. With the number 6 overall pick, I got the Hawks taking Isaac Okoro, and here's why. The Hawks need some defense. This guy is probably one of the best defensive players in the draft. The Hawks need defense because they got enough scoring from Collins and obviously Trae Young. So they have enough scoring there. I think the Hawks need some defense. This guy potentially could be a really, really good player, even though he only averaged 12.5 points last year at Auburn. But I do think the Hawks need defense. That's why I got Isaac Okoro at number 6 going to the Hawks.
All right. Well, we finally agree. We finally disagree on one. I got the Hawks taking Tyrese Hilburton for the guard from Iowa State. He got, hurt his wrist at the end of last year. But I think this he's really solid. He's a really effective scorer. He's great on both ends of the floor. He's got very high IQ. Very good passer. I think the thing for him is he's got to develop physically. He's got a really small frame, pretty skinny. Coming off the wrist injury too is a little bit concerning. But I think he could turn a really solid guy and kind of pair another type of scorer that can play off ball with Trae Younger.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. To have him and Young in the backcourt would be really, really good. With the number 7 overall pick, I got the Pistons taking Okong, the center out of USC. And I think the thing is they still have. I know that very easily can go point guard here. They can go Killen Hayes here or take Hal Burton here if he's still on the board. But I do think with them potentially losing Christian Wood, they traded Andre Drummond last year to the Cavs. I think they need a guy with upside. I think they need a big man with upside, and I think that this guy will do it. I think he could be really good for them, and that's why I got them taking him number 7 overall.
Yeah, I was close to taking him. I was going back and forth, but I went with Kellen Hayes, the point guard from France. I think they need a guard as well. They need help in a lot of different areas, but I feel like if Hayes is still there, it's a guy they go after. He's a really good playmaker, very good finisher around the rim. He's got very good court vision. The thing is, he's a left-handed dominant guy. He's not great with his right hand. That's something guys in the NBA are going to be able to figure out very quickly. So he's got to develop that right hand, and he's got to develop a three-point shot. But I think if he can do that, he can be a really good player for the Pistons.
With the number 8 pick, my Knicks have that pick, and I got them taking Tyrese Haliburton from Iowa State. And I think the big reason for this is they desperately need a point guard. Alfred Payton is not getting it done. Frank Ntilikina has been a complete bust. So I got the Knicks taking a point guard, which they desperately need, number 8 overall.
I'm going with the Knicks. I got them taking Isaac Okoro from Auburn. I think he's a guy that feels like he would fit what Tom Thibodeau wants to do. A defensive-minded head coach, likes, tough defense. So I think they go with the small forward from Auburn. He can guard pretty much. I think he can guard all 4 positions, or he can guard 4 positions. He's very good at contact on drives. But that's really about it. His weaknesses are he can score. His strength is scoring around the rim, but offensively, that's about it. That's really the one big weakness is he's not great at scoring everywhere else, and he's average rebounder too for his size. But I think if he can kind of get into his own there and be able to grab some rebounds, I think he could be a really solid player for the Knicks.
At number 9, I got the Wizards, and I got them taking Patrick Williams out of Florida State. Yes, he didn't score a ton of points last year in college. He wasn't overly impressive, only averaging 9.2 points a game. But he's got a ton of upside, and that's something a team like the Wizards need. They need a guy with upside because you don't know what the future is going to be with Bradley Beal or John Wall. So they need a guy with upside. That's why I got the Wizards taking him number 9 overall.
At number 9 for the Wizards, I got Okunja. I could never say his name last year at USC. Okunja, the big center. Now I heard this morning too. I guess he's got a foot injury, so I guess teams are frantically trying to get his medical report today. So that could, push back his draft stock. But he's a very good defender. He's versatile on that end. He could switch as well. He's very switchable. He's very good when he's got to switch. And I think, because he kind of reminds me of a Bam Adebayo type because of the way he does defend and his length. And especially he kind of comes out later towards the end of the lottery. I definitely kind of see him be like a Bam Adebayo type. He's not a great shooter, but he's really, really good around the rim. And I got the Wizards taking the big guy out of USC.
At number 10, the Suns, and I got them taking Saddiq Bey out of Villanova. I think they need a player who's going to help them now because they made the Chris Paul trade to help them now. Suns because they lost Kelly Oubre, they're in desperate need for a small forward or a power forward. They need a guy like Saddiq Bey. I think he's a player that helps them now. That's why I think they take him number 10 overall.
Yeah, definitely. This is a guy last year to break out year at Villanova. Didn't do a ton of freshman year, I think he only averaged about 5-6 points, but he upped that to 16 points a game last year. He can score at multiple positions or around the floor, and he shot 45% from the three last year. He can defend multiple positions, but he's very weak with the ball, and that's kind of the one big concern. And he's not great with the mid-range game. If he can kind of upgrade his mid-range game, I think he'll be good pick for him.
Before we get to free agency, Joe wants to jump on. He's got a big Giant story to update. So, Joe, we're ready.
All right. Yeah, so this story was full of misinformation earlier. What happened with Colombo was, you sort of guys alluded to it earlier, when they brought in Coach D, as we're calling him. Colombo obviously took exception to it. There was an altercation. It did not involve anything physical. It was full of a lot of name calling. It did get pretty heated. Colombo thought he had been playing really well. 3 straight games, they rushed for over 150 yards. Obviously, much improved offensive line. He felt he was being undermined. He let Joe Judge know he didn't appreciate that. And then some things were said, and he was immediately dismissed by Coach Judge. But there was no physical altercation. This was merely a lot of talking and obviously a lot of pride. Egos obviously being hurt. Colombo obviously didn't want somebody looking over his shoulder. So that's the latest, guys.
Absolutely. We all know with Mark Colombo being in the league in Dallas for a while, he does not like that. And obviously, and Joe was right, with the offensive line playing better, he didn't want to bring Coach D on to probably be a consultant. He wanted to be the O-line, just be the O-line coach without a consultant. But eventually, and thanks, Joe, for getting that for us, that's what eventually happened. And that's why the Giants are going with Coach D, and Colombo is out as offensive line coach.
Yeah. Thanks for clearing that up. But it's like I know we talked about it. The running game's been good. The line's been playing well the last few games. So he definitely didn't want that consultant. It's a tough thing, when you think, your line's getting better, but it's tough. But I think Giants probably made the smart move by getting Coach D.
Absolutely. So we'll head back to the NBA, and we're going to go to free agency now. And free agency is very, very quiet this year. This is not a big free agent. It's not a big free agent class at all. Even though that, and Joe, obviously Frank says thanks for the update, Joe. So this isn't a great free agency class at all. With Anthony Davis is technically a free agent, but that's a player option. He did opt out, but he's definitely going to sign with the Lakers. You have obviously Brendan Ingram, a restricted free agent, but a team can sign him an offer sheet, but the Pelicans would probably match that because Brandon Ingram was their leading scorer and their best player last year. Some of the ones that are interesting, Fred VanVleet, obviously that's an interesting one. See what the Raptors do with him. That would be a good move for the Knicks if they don't draft the point guard. Then the Pistons or the Hawks. Gordon Hayward is another free agent out there. It's a player option, so if he's still deciding, he'll decide Thursday if he wants to opt in or opt out. Delino Gallinari, he's been kind of a guy who's been all over the place in the NBA with the Nets, with the Thunder, the Knicks, the Nuggets, the Clippers. He's been all over the place, and really the team that has pretty much the most interest in him. He's going to be away from the Thunder. OKC's tearing that team apart. They just traded Chris Paul. The teams that have the most interest in him are the Nets, the Blazers, the Hawks, and the Suns. And then lastly, two other free agents. DeMar DeRozan, he opted back into the Spurs, and Andre Drummond, he opted back into the Cavs.
Anthony Davis is really the only big one, but he's probably going to re-sign with the Lakers. I think next year there's probably going to be a lot more action in free agency. But I definitly with Fred VanVleet, I think that would be such a nice move for the Knicks. If they don't go for a point guard tonight, I think that's definitely a guy kind of fits like Tom Thibodeau kind of scheme there. I think that could be really nice for the Knicks. DeRozan go back to the Spurs for $20 million. That's a nice one for San Antonio to get him back. I'd be shocked if Brandon Ingram doesn't go back to the Pelicans, with him and Zion kind of they're kind of building something. I'd be shocked if they don't re-sign him this offseason. But yeah, there's not a ton of big names this year. I think next year there's a couple, but
yeah, we know Giannis is definitely a free agent next year.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's gonna be more quiet, especially such a weird off season here. Because I know training camps are supposed to open in like 2 weeks, so it's probably gonna be very quick and guys will be signing very fast.
Yeah, obviously the most interesting thing in this offseason is what's going to happen with the Rockets and what's going to happen with Russell Westbrook and what's going to happen with James Harden. That's by far the most interesting thing that'll happen this offseason in the NBA. Did we lose you, Justin? Alrighty, so we're going to shift over to college football, and we got some big and Frank just commented, free agency blows this year. Nothing fun about it. I agree there. I definitely agree there about free agency in the NBA. But we're gonna head to college football, and we got a big top 10 matchup there with Indiana and Ohio State, and this should be a very good game. You have you got Michael Penix Jr. of Indiana, you got Justin Fields of Ohio State, and this should be a game where I still think Ohio State wins it by 2 scores because I know Indiana's had a great year, but if you look at some of Indiana's wins, I mean they did beat Penn State in the opener, but Penn State's 0-4 right now. They beat in their second game. They beat Rutgers. Rutgers, obviously, we know they're Rutgers. Michigan, they've been struggling too, and Michigan State. So Indiana's schedule's been pretty easy so far. Ohio State, you look at them. They obviously haven't beaten a lot of great teams either. I mean, Nebraska and Penn State, those teams are not that good either. So I think this is going to be a game where it's really close for a half. But I think Ohio State pulls away in the second half. I think they got the more talented team and the better quarterback. And I got Ohio State winning by 2 scores. Is Justin, you back? So it unfortunately looks like we've lost Justin there. Unfortunately, but if looking at Ohio State, if they win this game, look at their schedule the rest of the way. They got Michigan State, and Illinois. If Ohio State wins this game, they're easily going to get to the Big Ten championship game, unless there's a couple games that end up getting rescheduled due to COVID. So if Ohio State wins this game, they should easily be in the Big Ten championship game. But we'll stay in the Big Ten, and we got number 10 Wisconsin heading to Northwestern to face the Wildcats. And Northwestern's been a surprise team this year. I mean, they had that big win last week over Purdue. They crushed Maryland in the opening game. They beat Iowa as well, and they beat Nebraska. So they're 4-0. Wisconsin's obviously 2-0, but they've been really impressive. Their quarterback is Mertz. He's been really good. They obviously beat Michigan. They beat Michigan, and then they beat in the opener they beat Illinois. So they've been really impressive to start the season. And I think in this game, unfortunately, just like Ohio State and Indiana, I think this is going to be Wisconsin winning this game big. I think this week is the week where Wisconsin and Ohio State prove that they're clearly the 2 best teams in the Big Ten. I think Wisconsin runs the ball on the ground. I think they control the game. I think their defense is really good as well. Justin, you back? Unfortunately, we don't have Justin back.
No, he's not back. So let me jump in here for Northwestern because I think you're out of your mind. Justin,
okay, all right.
Tell me if I'm wrong here. I think Northwestern is going to win this football game. I think they're going to. I do. I definitely do. I've thought that all week, Steve. Steve, I got to tell you, I think the number one thing I'm noticing this year in college football is that it's 2020.
Yep.
It's not 2019, and a lot of things have changed in college football since 2019. And a lot of the teams that were supposed to be good aren't as good as we thought they were. And a lot of teams we didn't think were going to be good are playing really good football. And I think Northwestern is one of those teams that are right now just kind of playing out of their minds. I think that they can beat Wisconsin here at home.
It's hard though.
It's tough. You hate to go there, Steve. I get it. I've been calling upsets all year in college football, and I had to jump in on this one.
And you did call Michigan State over Michigan.
I did.
You did call that one. So yeah, I think it could be. In my opinion, I just think that Wisconsin just controls this game because unfortunately Northwestern, they did beat Maryland. I'll give you that. They did meet Maryland the first week with Tua's brother, but I mean, Iowa's not great, Nebraska's not great, and Purdue they won without Rondale Moore. So I feel like it's going to be a double-digit win for Wisconsin, but I do think the game's going to be close for a half. But I just think Wisconsin wins it. But you got a point. This year in college football, there's been so many upsets. It's been so crazy. Who would have thought, Penn State would be 0-4 and Michigan would be 1-3 and Northwestern would be 4-0.
Right. LSU, another good example.
LSU,
of a team we just assumed was going to be good this year.
LSU, I always knew was going to drop back a little bit with all the guys they lost, but I didn't think they'd be 2-3.
Right. Yeah. You could definitely see drop off, but not to the level of I mean, they stink.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, their quarterback's not good. Their defense is nowhere near what it was last year. Absolutely. They're not good at all. But yeah, you can stay on. You can stay on. Well, I'll even stay on until Justin gets back. And we got the game in Bedlam, and we got Oklahoma State traveling to Oklahoma this week. Got Spencer Rattler against Chua Hubbard. I think this is going to be a fun game. I think Oklahoma's starting to find their stride a little bit. They're starting to play better than they did at the beginning of the year. And Oklahoma State, they've been pretty good too. Chua Hubbard's one of the best running backs in the country, and I think this is a close, high-scoring game. But I got Oklahoma winning this game close over Oklahoma State. What do you got, Joe?
I have the same thing. I'm excited about this game. I think these are just two really good teams who definitely get off the gate a little rough, and I think now we're both hitting their peak. I still got Oklahoma State. Maybe if they win this game, they're in really good position, I think, the rest of the way. So, unfortunately, when it comes to the Big 12, you always have these kinds of the games you expect people to win late in the year that matter. They generally don't. And that would be my only concern here for OSU.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, Oklahoma lost 2 games. A lot of people thought they'd win. I mean, the game at the beginning of the year against Kansas State, the loss to Iowa State. This has been a weird year in the Big 12. You're getting a ton of upsets. You got Texas losing to TCU. And then obviously a couple of weeks ago, you had Texas beating Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, here's the thing for me with the Big 12. I feel like it's almost on repeat. I can almost guess when Texas is going to lose the game they need to win. I could almost guess when Oklahoma is going to blow that game. Like, they got to win this week. Every time I hear they got to win this week to set up this matchup, in the Big 12 championship or whatever, teams lose.
Yeah, exactly.
It seems automatic almost over the last, if I had to say, maybe decade or so. That's how the Big 12 plays out to me year after year.
Yeah, exactly. That's a lot of times why outside of Oklahoma they don't get a team in the college football playoff. And Oklahoma always loses that one game a year too. Last year they had that loss to Kansas State. It seems always happens to the Big 12.
Which is a shame because being a power conference, man, if somebody could ever take that conference. And I mean, say dominate it the way Alabama has been doing in the SEC on and off for the last decade. Well, think about where you would be if you were, say, Oklahoma State or Texas, and you could. I mean, the big problem is just always going to be defense. There's no defense out there. You get these shootouts, and Steve, when you get into a shootout, anything can happen.
Exactly. I mean, a bad team could beat a good team if that ends up happening. And you even look at guys in the NFL. You looked at the Eagles this year in terms of, which receiver would they take? They end up taking Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. Ends up being a bad move because Reagor put up numbers, but he's put up numbers in the Big 12 when you got Jefferson put up numbers in the SEC.
Yeah, if your boy Justin, I don't know if you could see, you can't see him. I can, as the producer. He is having an absolute meltdown right now on his end.
Really?
He's laughing. Yeah, he can hear me though.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, there's something happened with his mic. His mic is completely out, and I can see you, Justin. Just so you know, he had like a cartoon character freak out a second ago.
Wow.
Now, Justin, don't be embarrassed and feel bad. My wife made me redo some stuff in my our master bathroom, and I freaked out no less than 4 times, sort of like you just did. So don't sweat it.
Yeah. It happens. But we'll head to the last game, and that's we got USC going to Utah. Jace's team playing the Utah Utes. I think this is another really, really close competitive game. This is Utah's first game because 2 of their games got postponed due to COVID. And USC and their first 2 games, they've been close. I mean, obviously, close game at Arizona State, close game at Arizona. And I think the theme continues. I think that USC wins another close one over Utah, but I could see Utah pulling the upset too. I think Frank's comment, poor Justin there.
Yeah, it's funny. Justin, assuming he gets that mic fixed, will be on all four downs tonight. We're going to be talking about some college football. This will be one of the games that comes up. It seemed for the most part, nobody was necessarily sold on USC being so good or being good enough to be ranked, before they'd even played. And as you mentioned, Steve, 2 wins that certainly could have gone the other way. And with that, they're rewarded now with number 20 ranking. Haven't gotten a chance to see Utah yet. Big Jace definitely thinks that the Utes got a chance in this one.
Oh, he's picking them to win.
Of course he's picking them to win. I think Utah will keep it close. I'm not sure that Utah is the one that's going to hang the first L on USC, but I think USC. I think if we're talking about them, Justin, again in the next 2 or 3 weeks, it'll be because they're out of the top 25 completely.
Yeah, 2 close wins, and I could see them losing this one. But just the issue with Utah is they lost a lot of players last year on the defensive end. I mean. Blackman at the safety, Jalen Johnson. They lost a lot of players on the defensive end last year. That's why I think that USC wins this close.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I wouldn't be surprised. Be a good game though. It's not. I'm just glad that I'm just glad they're playing again.
Oh, absolutely, because it looked like the Pac-12 wasn't going to play at all this year. At the beginning, it looked like even when the Big Ten got canceled, it looked like they had a chance to come back. But it looked like the Pac-12 wouldn't play at all this year. And then obviously they ended up coming back too. So it's great. It's great to see them playing because they had some good games last week. Oregon, Washington State, USC, Arizona.
I don't know if I told you this, Steve. I watched all 14 NFL games last weekend.
How are you able to do that? Do you have a package or?
Yes. I have a package, and so I can watch all of the games. Yes. And I literally, it was weird. My wife just left me alone Sunday. I watched the games that were on TV. And then I just started jamming in other games, and I just stayed up all the Sunday into Monday, just one game after the next. And it was amazing. But also last weekend, I watched at least parts of 8 different college football games. And you know what it is? I'm just so glad it's there.
Exactly. During these times too. Yeah.
It's so great that, and I'll tell you what, when you look at some of the teams in college, like Coastal Carolina and Liberty, who are, I think, playing at a level that I said last week, I think Coastal Carolina could beat Georgia. Georgia's got a great defense, and you could say what you want about, some of these smaller teams. Coastal Carolina is insane. Grayson McCall is a true freshman. One of the top 6 touchdowns 2 weeks ago. Big time baller. So
you were telling me about him.
Justin's losing his mind. I think he wants in on the Grayson McCall conversation.
Exactly. Yeah,
am I right, Justin? Yeah. I think there's, when you look at college basketball, Steve, you're seeing more parity in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years than you'd ever seen before. It was always a given that the 1 would beat the 16, the 2, the 15. And now, boy, every year we get the big upsets. You're seeing a lot more parity and I think in college football, I think when you get beyond the Alabamas, the Clemsons, Ohio State, I think once you get down to the 5 down, I think it's kind of anybody's game at this point. If you got a good defense, you've got the right kind of offense that matches up again, you can definitely win a game against anybody at this point. And I still think that these teams get disrespected, and I understand it's about the money and, the name or whatever, but if you don't give these teams a chance to establish themselves, how are they ever going to do it?
Yeah, I mean, like you look at BYU this year undefeated, Cincinnati this year undefeated, and the team you talk about Coastal Carolina, they're more than likely not going to get, even if they go undefeated, they're more than likely not going to get a chance to, be in the college football playoff. But, I mean, they could probably, give some of those. I mean, they're probably better. They could be better than the 4th best team that gets in. If say it's like maybe even like Notre Dame's good this year. Maybe even like a Notre Dame or even like a Texas A&M, one of those, or a Florida, one of those teams that gets in. They could probably give one of those teams a game, but they're not going to get a chance.
Well, it's a shame. And Justin just messaged to us, Coastal Carolina is too much fun to watch. They certainly are. Justin turned me on to Cincinnati earlier in the year. I think Cincinnati goes undefeated and everybody else has a loss. Bama probably gets through the season unscathed. Maybe Ohio State does. I don't know that I see more. I don't see Notre Dame necessarily clearing the hurdle. Well, they're not going to be able to clear the hurdle because they're going to have to lose to Clemson. And I'm telling you, I think you're going to find yourself in an interesting situation where you're going to have to tell an undefeated and really good Cincinnati team they can't be in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's very.
It's not going to go over well with fans, and it's not going to go over well with people like us, Steve.
Absolutely, and that same situation happened to UCF 3 years ago when they were undefeated. They claimed that they were national champions, but they didn't end up getting the playoffs because of the conference they were in.
And this is my beef with where these teams like USC and Ohio State in the last few weeks have all showed up to play. When you've got teams that are 5-0, 6-0, that just get bumped down in the ratings because, well, Ohio State's got to get theirs and USC and Penn State. And how many of these teams that were put into the top 25 without having played a game when you had teams undefeated and then showed up and lost within a week or two and were right back out of the top 25? How disrespectful to the teams that were already there. One of the things on All Four Down, Steve, that I refused to do from the beginning of the season until his third game, I wouldn't put Justin Fields in my Heisman contender list.
Yeah, because it's not right to put a guy that's played 2 games.
Sure, there's guys that have put up big league numbers in half their games so far. I'm sorry, but 2 games out of Justin Fields, and they've been great. And I love Justin Fields, and he might end up being the guy when all's said and done. But there's no way that I could put Justin Fields over a Mac Jones or a Grayson McCall or Desmond Ridder. There's guys that are playing out of their minds. Field shows up and he's got to be my number 1 contender. I don't know. I want to see him play a few more games. Make sure he doesn't have any stinkers. You have one of those just like that, you're out.
Yeah, you got to earn it. That's the thing. You got to earn it. You can't just
earn it. You're exactly right.
You can't go off reputation saying you're going to be. Obviously, you'll be the number 2 overall pick, but you got to go out there. The Heisman Trophy has nothing to do with your NFL projection. You got to go out and earn it that season.
Well, and it's funny you say that because a lot of people have been struggling with the idea that Mac Jones. I've heard that constantly. Well, Mac Jones he's a game manager. He's not an NFL quality quarterback. Well, newsflash, people. Mel Kiper's got him 24th on the big board, probably the 4th quarterback to go in the draft. So you're wrong about Mac Jones. He's not a game manager. He's a baller, and he might be going first round of the NFL draft. So, people can step up. Again, we sort of talked about that idea, Steve, of don't tell me what I did last year. You want to use that to give me a top 25 preseason ranking? Great. Once the games start, throw that garbage out the window. What I did in 2019 with 6 guys in the NFL now has nothing to do with what's going to happen in the coming weeks.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, this season. We got a good slate of games, especially in the Big Ten. So I'm excited for what's going to happen this week in college football. But we got to wrap up the show. We're going to wrap it up talking a little bit of baseball. Theo Epstein steps down as Cubs president of the Cubs. A little bit surprising to me because the Cubs did get to the playoffs this year. A little bit surprised that he stepped down.
Yeah, I'm shocked by this, but I mean, look, he's been there a long time. He's got the championships now. I think. It doesn't shock me. I think with all the uncertainty going in the next season and, Theo seems like the kind of guy that doesn't want to get pinned down by any one thing. He didn't seem like he wanted to be tied to Boston, as Brian Cashman is. And I think with the Cubs, I don't think this is any different. I mean, he's loved out there and he's done an amazing job with his Cubbies to, end the curse and make them a relevant team literally each of the last 4 seasons. So, I think if you're the Cubs, you're grateful for Theo. And for Theo, whatever he does next, I'm sure it's going to be amazing because pretty much everything he does is.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, who would have thought one guy would help break 2 curses with the Red Sox in 2004 and with the Cubs in 2016? Amazing.
Hall of Famer, yes.
Oh, clearly Hall of Famer. No question about it.
I think just on the fact that he broke both curses, Steve, I think probably gets him his own wing. But yeah, a great job. And again, still a young dude. I mean, he's probably not even 50?
Oh, no. You got to be in his 40s.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me sick to my stomach because I'm 45, but, good for Theo. And again, I mean, who knows what he'll do next? Maybe he can go run, maybe he can take over the New York Football Giants.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
If he wants a project, there's one for you.
It sure is. It sure is. It sure is. But we're going to talk about another GM hire, and baseball being very progressive here. A sport that's not progressive, very progressive here, and that's the Marlins hiring up Kim Ng as the first female general manager in baseball, and good for the Marlins to do that. I'm really excited to see what she's going to do with that team, and a team that has a lot of people this year getting to the playoffs.
This is such an amazing hiring, and Kim goes back a long ways with the New York Yankees. They were actually the first team to give her a job out of college. She was a college softball player and a very good one. Was very interested in baseball. Never, ever thought that this was a possibility, but she interned at the Major League Baseball office, Steve. Things went really well. People really liked her, just her presence and her knowledge. They were so impressed. Brian Cashman hired her on as a special assistant. And in no time flat, this woman blew everybody out of the water. To the point where eventually she was put in charge of baseball operations, and I believe was the first woman ever given that responsibility. She was given the Yankees Asian Pacific scouting. She was in charge of all of that, and then literally became the assistant general manager to Brian Cashman. Her name got floated around for a bunch of different jobs. She eventually left, took a slightly better assistant GM job with the Dodgers, where she had a little more power. I think she felt like, having been Brian Cashman's underling for a long time, I think she felt her voice would be more not respected, but maybe heard a little more elsewhere. And now this is all culminated in a historical first for baseball and for any guy out there who doesn't understand the significance of this or doesn't think a woman meet this woman, read about her, because I promise you, she'll blow you away. This woman knows more about baseball than I do.
And if that's the case, she knows a lot. I mean, she knows a ton.
Steve,
that's the case.
Steve, there's not a lot of men I would say that about. Period. And this woman is somebody who I have great respect for her knowledge and her abilities. I think this is a great hiring for the Marlins. I'm glad too that it's Derek Jeter, and obviously the former Yankee, to sort of carry on the legacy. Again, because she spent so much time with the Yankees, and with the Dodgers for that matter. I mean, again, I think Yankees, Dodgers. I think you look at the history of baseball and how tied those franchises were in New York for a long time. I think this is great, and I think the Marlins are going to be a really good team, and they're going to prove, as Tampa has, that you don't need a budget. You just need to find the right guys, and she'll do that.
Oh, absolutely. They found the manager. I mean, they had really good pitching this year, and yeah, I'm just excited. I'm just excited what she's going to do being there. I mean, I didn't know she worked for the Dodgers and the Yankees. Those are the two of the top organizations in baseball, so she's learned from the best.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and again, like I said, Steve, everywhere she's gone, she's blown people away with not just her knowledge of the game and her understanding of the game, but the business aspect of the game, the marketing aspect of the game. She sees baseball in a different way than a lot of people, while having a really firm understanding of the game itself, having been a ball player herself. So this is a special woman, and again, in 2020, so nice to see another ceiling shattered.
Absolutely, and it sure has with this hire. It absolutely has. But we're going to wrap it up this week on Sports Talk with R and J. For Joe Aguirre and Justin D'Onofrio, I'm Steve Risser. We'll be back next week talking Week 12 of the NFL season and Week 13 of the college football season. Have a great weekend, everyone.